Heyo everybody, Haku here with my review for episode 6 of Towaru Kagaku no Accelerator, or a certain scientific accelerator. And if this is only one core, we're halfway through, or even if it's multiple cores, we're at least halfway through the first core, and it really doesn't feel like we've been watching for that long, really. But either way, the show just continues to get better. I feel like it's a situation where this episode was the best so far, even better than last episode, which was better than the episode before that, and so on and so forth. As you can probably tell from the increasing reception I've given it over the course of my reviews. But yeah, the production was amazing. It was great. The production and the directing was the best the show has been so far. Plus the character work was great. I loved Accelerator, I loved all of Scavenger, and I'm really kind of invested in them and want to see them more now. And Esther and Hasami are characters that I have loved all season, and I continue to love them, maybe even more so than before. And as far as the action and the fighting goes, this was so much better than any of the previous episodes. Not that they were bad at all, it's just that this was so good that I can say it was so much better. And somehow, despite all that, despite how much I loved it and how much I thought it was really, really good, it still somehow felt long. Like, as I was watching it the first time, I was like, oh, this is so good, it has to be almost over, right? And we're like not even halfway through. And even when I was rewatching it, taking notes, rewatching it the second time, I still was like, oh my gosh, this episode is like, it feels like so much has happened and we're not even halfway through. So it's crazy how this episode was this good and yet didn't manage to feel like it flew by like nothing. It still felt like a really long episode, like a ton of things happened. So yeah, let me discuss it a bit part by part now that I've given some general thoughts. So Scavenger at the beginning, I kind of feel like they have a little bit of a point really, where they're like, why do you like to kill teachers so much? And they bring up that, well, Academy City's basically like one giant school. So if there is a dark side, if things are all screwy, if things are really bad, and we know there are a whole bunch of sketchy experiments, then they're like, so if there's a giant school, and this place is sketchy like that, then we keep killing people who are above us in the pecking order, we keep killing teachers, and eventually we hit the headmaster, metaphorically. And I kind of think they have a point. Obviously, just killing random innocent teachers does not help them accomplish anything whatsoever, but they do have their own sort of solid character motivation there that's pretty understandable. The paper control that, what was her name, Naru uses is actually really cool, really OP, and it is sort of like what I was guessing at last time, where I was like, I'm not sure if she controls fabric and it just looks like papers, or if she controls paper itself and that's what she was using as fabric. And it is that she controls paper itself, but because she controls the fiber of the paper, she can make it super hard in order to defend, or super soft and mobile and flexible. So yeah, a really, really useful ability. We also get to learn I think she has brown hair, the brown hair girl's name, Yaku, and she controls chemical mixtures by their specific gravity, which is an interesting ability too. We've seen her use it in multiple ways. She had the freezing solution that she used, and then later on the thermite reaction. So again, really cool abilities, adding in with the girl, they say her name later on, Seike, I think, and actually, I looked them up just to make sure that I had a grasp on what their powers actually were. I looked them up on the wiki to look at the power sections for them, just to make sure that I actually did understand what was going on, and I found out that Seike might actually not be a girl, or at least cisgendered girl. So Seike, as what one comment I love said about gosh, what was her name? Kiku from One Piece. They just became Bester Girl. So, yeah, I love all of Scavenger's abilities, and the way they work as a team later on, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, is really logical and really cool. But either way, we learn a bit about Yaku as she kills just this one scrub from DA. But then we get Hasami versus Naru, and it's really, really well animated. It looks really good, and the choreography behind it's really nice too. Another thing I love, like the guy dying just a second ago, and like some of sort of the bloody injuries that we see here, I love the darkness of the series. And what I mean by it is that it doesn't matter if we see, it feels like things aren't held back. It doesn't matter if we have sort of very, very anime-ish or very girly character design sometimes, or like something really weird and wacky like the bunny armor. That doesn't make it seem, even though that's something that ordinarily seems sort of silly and wacky, the series doesn't feel any less serious when I see that, because I know throughout multiple light novels, throughout multiple seasons of these spin-offs and of the main series, that there are actual consequences to things. It doesn't feel like characters can just do whatever without taking really serious injuries or dying. So the series is done a great way, and like we see the injuries and stuff here, they're so serious and they're so dark, and the consequences of them are so consistent that even if we see something that should be sort of silly and out of place, it doesn't feel silly and out of place at all. Like, that's what, because I was thinking about it, I was like, am I being hypocritical for not thinking this bunny armor is silly? And I'm like, no, not really. It doesn't feel out of place at all, just because the series is really consistent on, even if that's the way it looks, the consequences are not silly at all. It's all very consistent. So the writing has been done very, very well, to the point where we could even see something that should be silly like that, and it doesn't feel out of place. Or it doesn't take away from anything. Also, Esther shows off some more magic, which is cool. The excavator transformation is actually a smart move. If they're using earthen armor, then use something that cuts through earth. Use the excavator. I also love Naru's voice actor. I haven't mentioned that yet. I feel like there's a combination of her being really, really funny, and at the same time being able to do the serious parts really well. So I love Naru and her voice actor quite a lot. And we have this classic moment here where Hasami is protecting Esther, and I love it and everything. It was a really, really good moment for their characters, but it is a classic just stand there moment. As this crazy serious stuff is going on, they're just gonna stand there and talk for a minute. Just one of those classic anime moments. But I also found it interesting how this is one of those things that works better in a manga, and you see this in anime all the time, where it almost feels like, okay, so she was blocking it with the earthen armor she had, and then it gets to her arm, and it starts shredding her arm or whatever, and they still have time to sit there and talk for a while, and it's not progressing like it was through the armor, so it's like, is her flesh stronger than that armor? But again, it's just one of those sort of tropey moments either way that was funny. But again, that's not something I would count against it at all, because it's one of those things where in manga you can just throw one panel and have a bunch of text from them talking, and it doesn't like make it seem like it's a long time. You're like, oh, this is all happening in the instance of one panel. But then when you try to animate it and they actually have to talk back and forth, it's like, oh no, this is kind of a long time that she's standing there holding this thing back. But then Accelerator shows up, and I love Leader falling for Accelerator. That was so good. And then both of the others, Seikei and what was her name again? I think I have it in my notes somewhere. Yaku slapping Naru, telling her to wake up. All that was funny. And they offer Accelerator the black position in their Sentai group. But Accelerator goes on what he's been going on so far this season. His development as a person who is very much an anti-hero, very much a monster to the monsters, a villain to the villains, and I like that. I like that he also still kills people. We see it later on chronologically in Index 2 when he kills the hound dogs, but he spares Scavenger to let them have a chance to change as well. So I think that's, again, really, really great development, because they're not sort of necessarily evil like some of the people he has killed. So I like that. And another thing that I kind of mentioned earlier, we get to see a team attack on Accelerator from them that would kill most anybody except Accelerator. But their teamwork is really, really good and logical. I love how the like members of their teams have Esper abilities that I think, oh god, I'm sorry if it's so difficult to remember not to call them quirks because of Boku no Hero Academia. I may have called them quirks earlier in the review, sorry if I did, but the similarities are so strongly there that it's difficult to remember that. But I like that their abilities are in a way that they all work together perfectly. We have Leader who can track down people, but then once they're in combat, Seke can stop them from moving because of the friction, and then when they're stuck in one place, they can create that shell of the paper armor and then throw something like the thermite charge in there for pretty much a sure kill. So again, I like that the three of them working together is incredibly logical. And from there, the science lady who's behind them or whatever that was watching them, that released them back when they were first called, she is strong as fuck. She took that pen and like snapped it in half like it was nothing. And okay, I have in my notes here that this is where we hear Seke's name for the first time. And then there's one really great shot as they're all getting defeated and Naru tries to attack Accelerator again. There's one really, really great shot of Naru jumping at Accelerator that looked like something straight out of a Trigger anime. It was so good. And that's another thing, the direction. I've talked about like how good the animation looked this episode, but the direction was really, really, really a ton better than all the previous episodes too. It's not, again, I've been saying good things about the episodes like progressively more and more good, but this one even blew the previous ones that were good out of the water. Also, my last thing in my like notes that I took while watching the episode was my last bullet point is I ship Accelerator X Leader. So yeah, I guess I do that now. But either way, I thought that it was an amazing episode. I thought the character development was there for everyone involved. I still love Esther and Hisami. Accelerator had good character development here. I really care about all of Scavenger now and want to see how they can develop even more. All of it was great, and we get to see some of the most famous moments of Accelerator is when he's just taking down these bad guys one by one like this, and we get to see Accelerator in top form here, just the classic stuff that fans of the series love to see from him. So yeah, also, as I've already said multiple times, production and direction was the best for the show by far. So I would even give it, I'm not going to give it quite a perfect score, because I wanted to give it a perfect score because I loved it so much, but generally when I give a perfect score to an episode, it's because there's also some sort of real emotional investment there, or emotional development there, and this was just great from a production standpoint, so entertaining when it comes to comedy, when it comes to action, when it comes to just how well the story was told. It was great in every way, but it didn't have this really like sort of big turning point emotional moment to it. So I would still give it a 9.75 mind breaks out of 10. Just my general close to perfect, but it just didn't have that thing that sets it over the edge to make it a perfect score for me. So 9.75 out of 10. I loved it. My favorite episode so far. And I'm really hoping the series can continue to just keep outdoing itself week after week. Because we're basically at the ceiling. So if they still manage to do better every week like they've been doing so far, I'm going to be blown away. So yeah, I loved it, and I hope you did too. Like if you did like the video, and comment down there to tell me what you thought of this episode and what you thought of my thoughts on it and all that. Subscribe for more. Twato Majutsu no I almost said Twato Majutsu no Index. Twato Kagaki no Accelerator. Much more on the channel. Follow on Twitter if you want. I can try to keep you updated there and stuff with the channel or talk to you there. If you want a link to the Discord server to talk to me or more of us up there about this show or anything else, then just ask and I can give you a link. And if you want to help support the channel on Patreon, keep it going and all that, link to the Patreon will be in the description. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.